My father humiliated my 10-year-old on Christmas, so I showed the internet who he really is. Hi, I'm Damien, 36, and this Christmas I learned the hard way that sometimes the people who demand the most respect deserve the least of it. So, picture this. I'm standing in my living room, Christmas lights blinking like they're mocking me, while my daughter's face crumbles because her grandparents decided she didn't earn presents this year. Why? Because she got a B in science. A B. Not a D. Not a suspension. A literal B. My daughter's name is Isla. She's 10. The kind of kid who says, "Thank you," when you hand her a napkin. Who practiced multiplication until her eyes crossed because fractions made her panic. And who, after struggling all fall, finally asked me for help. I got her a tutor. Twice a week, every week. $55 per session. That's $110 a week, which adds up fast when you're a single dad trying to keep food on the table and the lights on. But Isla worked. She showed up. Even when she was tired or upset or convinced she wasn't smart enough. She never gave up. And when her report card came, it was the best she'd ever done. I told her how proud I was. We planned to bake cookies and sleep in and just have one quiet, cozy Christmas together in the little duplex I rent near the train yard where I work nights. Then my parents said they were coming. And everything fell apart. My dad, Gregory, is the kind of man who believes discipline builds character, but mostly for other people's kids. My mom, Sylvia, has this cold smile that could curdle cream. They worship my older sister, Marissa. She's 38, has 2 kids, twins, and a whole parade of participation trophies they treat like Nobel Prizes. Marissa's twins got new tablets, designer sneakers, even a drone this year from my parents. Isla got a lecture. In my house, Dad didn't even say hello when he walked in. Just stood in my doorway and said, "Did Isla make the honor roll?" I thought he was joking. He wasn't. When I said she got mostly A's and 1 B, he sighed like I told him she burned the place down. Then he picked up the 3 wrapped gifts he'd brought, the ones Isla helped him carry in, and handed them straight to Marissa's kids. Right in front of her. I watched my daughter's face go from excited to confused to completely blank. That scary blank where kids don't know if they're allowed to be upset. I opened my mouth to say something, but my mom beat me to it. She patted Isla on the shoulder and said, "Only excellence gets rewarded, sweetie." And something in me snapped. But I didn't yell. I pulled out my phone. I hit record. And I let them keep talking. You ever have one of those moments where everything slows down? That was me, standing there, watching my dad sip eggnog like he hadn't just body-checked a 10-year-old's self-esteem, while Marissa's kids squealed and unwrapped gifts Isla had literally helped me wrap the night before. Yeah, the same ones now being opened with greasy hands and zero gratitude. I could feel my hands shaking, not with rage, but with this deep, pulsing heat of shame. Not for me. For them. For letting Isla believe these people loved her the same. But again, I didn't blow up. I didn't throw them out. Not yet. Because Isla was watching. She was standing right there in her fuzzy socks, still wearing the handmade reindeer headband she'd made at school, trying so hard to pretend it didn't matter. She gave me this tiny, quick smile. The kind of smile kids make when they're trying to make you feel better. I wanted to cry. Instead, I said, "Isla, can you grab me your headphones, sweetheart?" She nodded and ran off to her room. The second the door closed, I turned to my parents and said, "Explain yourselves." Gregory leaned back in my recliner like it was his throne. "We've always made it clear," he said. "Excellence is rewarded. It's motivational." Motivational? I asked. "You just humiliated her. In her home. On Christmas." Sylvia took a dainty sip of her wine. "Children need standards." I said, "She's 10. She tried. She worked hard. She made progress." Gregory shrugged. "A B is not progress. It's average." Marissa, who up to this point had been silent, chimed in with her signature smugness. "Honestly, Damien, you've always been a little soft on her. It shows." "Oh, okay." There it was. The full set. I laughed. Not a real laugh. One of those single, stunned exhales you make when you realize this was never about Isla's grades. It was about control. Status. The family's weird obsession with performance over people. So I said, "You know what? Let me show you something motivational." I walked over, grabbed the envelope from the kitchen drawer, the one with every tutoring receipt stapled together, and tossed it on the table in front of Gregory. "That's what support looks like." He didn't even blink. No one told you to waste money. Right, I said. Because supporting your kid is wasteful. But buying your golden grandchildren mini drones and VR headsets? Smart investing. He stood. We're leaving. I held up my phone again. Not before I get a nice clear shot of you explaining why. That stopped him. Sylvia hissed. You wouldn't. I said, you want to bet? Gregory's jaw clenched so hard I thought his molars might pop. Put the phone down, Damien. I didn't move. I didn't raise my voice. I just said no. Sylvia stepped toward me, hands raised like she was the victim. Damien, be reasonable. This is family business. I said exactly. And family business shouldn't include shaming a child on Christmas because you didn't like a letter on a piece of paper. Marissa huffed and dropped onto the couch like she was exhausted by my drama. Honestly, this is ridiculous. Isla's not even crying. I said, that's because she doesn't feel safe enough to cry in front of you. That shut her up. Gregory scoffed. What kind of man hides behind a phone? I stepped closer. The kind of man who's done protecting your image at the expense of his kids' mental health. That's when Isla peeked her head out from her room. Her eyes were red. She must have heard everything. My stomach dropped. She walked over slowly, and I knelt down to meet her. You okay, bug? She nodded, barely, then whispered, did I do something wrong? Gregory actually had the audacity to say, she needs to hear the truth. I turned and stood, shielding Isla with my body. No. What she needs is to know that she's enough. That effort matters. That love isn't something she has to earn with straight A's. Sylvia folded her arms. And what happens when she grows up soft? When the world doesn't hand out praise for effort? I said, then she'll at least know her father never treated her like a spreadsheet. Gregory laughed once. You've always been so emotional. And you've always mistaken cruelty for strength. That did it. Gregory's face darkened, but before he could speak, Isla tugged my sleeve and whispered, can they go now? That wrecked me. I looked straight at them and said, you heard her. Leave. Marissa stood, indignant. You're choosing a child over your own parents? I looked at Isla, then back at them. Absolutely. Gregory picked up the remaining gift bags like they were contaminated and marched toward the door. Sylvia followed, muttering about ruined traditions. Marissa paused long enough to glare at me like she wanted to spit. Then she looked down at Isla and said, you'll regret this when you're older. Isla stared right back and said, I don't think I will. And just like that, the front door closed. And my living room finally felt like home again. After the door clicked shut, Isla exhaled like she'd been holding her breath the entire night. She looked up at me, eyes still glassy, and said, are they mad? I shook my head. They're just loud. Loud doesn't mean right. She nodded and leaned into me, forehead pressed to my chest like she was trying to disappear. We stood there like that for a while, her just breathing, me trying to keep it together. I wanted to break something. Yell. Go outside and scream into the wind. But I had a daughter to protect, not just from them, but from what they tried to plant in her. That love is a transaction. That perfection is a requirement. That being anything less than flawless makes you unworthy of kindness. Nope, not on my watch. We didn't say much for the rest of the night. I made us grilled cheese and tomato soup, and we watched that old claymation Rudolph special, the one where the reindeer gets bullied until suddenly everyone loves him for being useful. Isla looked at me halfway through and said, they only liked him because of his nose. I said, yeah, but we like him because he was kind even when people were jerks. She smiled for real that time. First one all day. The next morning, I took her to the little bookstore downtown, the one with the creaky wood floors and sleepy cat that lives behind the counter. I told her, pick anything you want. She pointed at a journal with a velvet cover and said, can I have that? Of course, I said, but you gotta promise to fill it with your ideas, not their voices. She whispered, okay. Later that week, I posted the video. Just the clip of Gregory saying, only excellence gets rewarded, and Sylvia nodding along while Marissa's twins tore into wrapping paper like it was a sport. I captioned it, my daughter got a B. Her grandparents brought gifts for everyone but her. This was their version of motivation. I thought it might get a few supportive comments. Maybe some validation that I wasn't losing my mind. What I didn't expect was for it to blow up. By the next morning, my phone was vibrating like it owed someone money. I had over 200 missed notifications, comments, shares, DMs. Some supportive, some furious, some just those weird emojis people drop when they don't know what to say. Apparently, I'd tapped into a universal pressure point, the idea that kids have to earn love. It wasn't just strangers. Local parents I barely knew were tagging their friends. People from work were texting things like, "Wait, is that your dad?" One of my coworkers, Denise, messaged, "Bro, that's the guy on the truck with the integrity is everything slogan, right?" Yep, that was him. Gregory Lancaster, plastering fake values on his business while treating his own granddaughter like a quarterly report. I tried to keep calm about it. I hadn't posted it to destroy him. I needed people to see, to understand why I wasn't backing down anymore. But Gregory didn't take it that way. By 3 p.m., I had 7 missed calls from him, 11 from my mom, and one long-winded voicemail from Marissa that began with, "You selfish prick," and somehow ended with her crying about property taxes. The group chat, which I'd only ever used to share photos of Isla's school projects, lit up like it was Christmas morning again. "Gregory, take it down now. This is defamation. Sylvia, you're tearing this family apart over one misunderstanding. Marissa, Dad lost a major client this morning. You think this is a joke?" I stared at my screen, heart pounding and palms sweaty, even though I knew I hadn't done anything wrong. But guilt is a tricky thing, especially the kind you're raised on. The kind that's baked into every family dinner, every backhanded compliment, every, "I'm only hard on you because I care." That night, I sat with Isla on the couch. We were watching a baking show, and she was wrapped in my old hoodie like a burrito. She didn't ask about the video, didn't ask about them, just leaned against me and said, "Today was quiet." I nodded. That's how it should be. Then, barely above a whisper, "I like it when it's just us." And that, right there, was the moment I knew. Whatever came next, I wasn't going back. It didn't take long for things to spiral. By the weekend, Gregory's company had lost 2 more contracts. One was a school district, the other, a pediatric dentist's office. Both cited values misalignment, which is just a fancy way of saying, "We saw the video, Greg, and yikes." The family's response? Complete denial, naturally. Gregory texted, "I hope you're proud of yourself. You've humiliated your father in front of the entire town." I replied, "No, you did that. In front of my daughter." Then came Sylvia, always the strategist, trying a different angle. She called and launched into a speech that sounded suspiciously rehearsed. "Damien, your father has spent his life building a reputation. He's under stress. He's old-fashioned. But he loves you. He loves Isla." I said, "If that's love, maybe you should both try less of it." Click. Then Marissa. She didn't even try to fake civility. She showed up at my door in a fake fur coat and fury. Pounded so hard I thought the hinges might give out. I opened it just wide enough to block her from seeing Isla behind me. "You need to fix this," she hissed. "Fix what? Telling the truth? My kids are getting bullied at school." "Oh, you mean because people saw them getting handed free stuff while my daughter got humiliated for AB?" She folded her arms. "That wasn't humiliation. That was motivation." I stepped outside, pulling the door closed behind me. "Marissa, your kids have been coddled since birth. You do not get to act shocked when the world finally holds up a mirror." She glared at me like I'd just insulted the Pope. "Dad is having chest pains over this. Then maybe he shouldn't have brought a PR crisis to my living room." She leaned in. "What's it going to take to make this go away?" I blinked. "Excuse me. You heard me. What do you want? Money? An apology? You want Dad to cry on camera? What?" I stared at her for a long time, wondering if she'd ever actually seen Isla. Like really seen her. I want my daughter to grow up knowing her worth isn't conditional. That love isn't something she has to earn. And I want the people in her life to reflect that, not mock it. Marissa scoffed. "So that's a no on the apology video? Goodbye, Marissa." And I closed the door in her face. I wish I could tell you that was the end of it. That Marissa stormed off and Gregory had a revelation and Sylvia cried into a cup of chamomile and everyone learned a valuable lesson about humility. But this is real life. Not a Hallmark movie. What actually happened? They doubled down. Gregory posted a video on his own company page, sitting behind his desk like a discount CEO, saying, "In this house, we value hard work. We don't believe in participation trophies. And we certainly don't reward mediocrity." He never mentioned Isla by name. But everyone knew, especially after someone clipped the part where he said, If my own son wants to raise a soft kid, that's his choice. But don't expect the rest of us to celebrate it. It went viral for all the wrong reasons. Comments flooded in. Parents, teachers, people who'd once hired him, people who used to look up to him. The backlash was brutal. Even worse, a former employee jumped in with her own story. Greg fired me the week after I miscarried. Told me to come back when I wasn't so fragile. That took on a life of its own. Gregory tried to delete the video. Too late. Within days, his website went down. His Google reviews tanked. Even the town mayor's wife, who used to send him Christmas cards, posted, "Children are not business models." I'll admit, I felt a grim kind of justice. But then, Isla asked the question that knocked the wind out of me. Is this all because of me? I sat down on her bed, heart in my throat. No, sweetheart. This is because of them. But if I got an A, would this still have happened? And there it was. The poison they'd poured into her was still swimming in her bloodstream. I took her hand and said, "This isn't about your grade. It's about how they treated you, how they made you feel. And none of it, is your fault." She nodded, slowly, like she wanted to believe me. I said, "You don't have to be perfect to deserve kindness." Then I added something I should have said long ago. And from now on, if anyone makes you feel otherwise, I'll remind them exactly whose daughter you are. Christmas morning came quietly. No calls, no knock at the door, no icy tension from people who think love is a scoreboard. It was just me and Isla, matching pajamas, a stack of pancakes shaped like snowmen because I burned the reindeer once, a tree lit up with soft, warm lights and exactly 3 gifts under it. None of them expensive, none of them performative, just stuff I knew she'd love. A sketchbook, a pair of fuzzy socks with little otters on them, and a silver necklace with a tiny eye charm, engraved on the back with 4 simple words, "You are always enough." When she opened it, she froze, like she didn't quite trust it was for her. Then she whispered, "Even though I got a B?" I pulled her into my arms. "Especially because you got a B. Because you tried. Because you worked. Because you are you." She buried her face into my shoulder and didn't say anything for a long time. But I could feel it. That uncoiling. That exhale. That moment where a kid starts to believe maybe, just maybe, love doesn't come with conditions. We stayed in our pajamas all day, watched movies, made hot cocoa with too many marshmallows. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel like I was hosting someone else's holiday script. I wasn't waiting for a shoe to drop. I wasn't bracing for someone to insult my parenting through a forced smile. It was calm, and quiet, and real. A few days later, I got an email from Gregory. No subject line, no greeting, just one sentence. "You happy now?" I didn't respond. I didn't need to, because the answer was, not quite. But I was proud. Proud of my daughter. Proud of myself. Proud that we'd finally broken the cycle. See, people love to say family is everything. But what they really mean is, keep the peace no matter who it hurts. But I don't want peace at the cost of my kid's self-worth. I want her to know that she matters. Not just when she excels. Not just when she wins. But always. And if it took burning a few bridges to light that path, then let it burn. Because this house, our house, is finally warm. And I'll never trade that for silence again.